Good morning. Welcome to welcome to the April 26th meeting of the Utah Board of Oil, Gas, and Mining. As is our traditional custom, we will start with a briefing session from the Division of Oil, Gas, and Mining. So I'd like to turn the floor over to Director John Baza.
Thank you, Chair Borden, and welcome members of the board to your meeting in Salt Lake City this month. Glad to have you. Glad the weather's cooperating, and appreciate all of you being here. A couple of things I'd like to bring up initially before we jump in to the agenda. First of all, Deputy Director Dana Dean was actually going to be here to give you this briefing this morning, but we switched places. She's on a natural resources trip that's going down into southern Utah, and I offered to take her place to give you the briefing this morning. So I think that's okay. But the other thing I wanted to bring up initially was we recently went. Sorry, we're getting an echo in the room. Okay? Testing. Okay. The second thing I wanted to bring up is the governor made some appointments and reappointments this past quarter, and we now have a new board member appointed by the governor, confirmed by the Senate, and we also have extended terms for two of our board members. Ms. Garrison and Mr. Church both got additional terms on the Board of Oil, Gas, and Mining for another 4 years, and the newest board member who will be replacing Mr. Hansen will be Greg Galecki. And you'll actually meet Greg. He works for American Gilsonite out in Vernal, and he will be actually leading our board tour this month. But for Ms. Garrison and Mr. Church and for Mr. Galecki, we will actually do the administration of the oaths of office for those new terms at the May board meeting. Along with that, I would mention that we're doing a open house / reception to say goodbye to Chris, Mr. Hansen, at the day before our May board meeting. That'll be from 4 to 6 p.m. here in the DNR auditorium on May 23rd. So please come if you're available, and we'd like to wish Mr. Hansen well in his future endeavors and thank him for his dedicated service to this board. So, appreciate you, Chris.
I believe Mr. Galecki is here now.
Oh, let's see. Yes. So just, if you want to stand for a second. This is Greg Galecki. He is here. He will be the newest member of the board. And as I indicated, we'll do that oath of office in May. So thanks. Appreciate you being here. Let's move on to the actual agenda item for the briefing. First thing that we wanted to cover was the May board field trip. This is going to happen on May 9th and 10th. This is a Tuesday and Wednesday. I think you've all been contacted, and we've all got RSVPs from you, and several other people are planning to attend the meeting. I thought I would go over the itinerary real quick. I don't want to take a lot of time with this, but we'll be meeting here at the DNR building on May 9th at 7:45 a.m. It's about a 3.5 hour drive to Vernal, and so we want to leave early enough so that we can make it to Vernal by lunchtime. There'll be a couple of rest stops along the way, and then when we get to the DNR regional office in Vernal will have lunch, and we'll also have briefings by a couple of different staff members on their work involving the Uintah Basin. After lunch, we will drive to Simplot Phosphate Mine, north of town. We'll have a tour of Simplot from around 1:15 to about 3:45 that afternoon. We'll drive back to our hotels in Vernal, and I think we've got two, because we had to make certain arrangements and reservations. The two are right next to each other. There's the Spring Hill Suites and the Town Place Suites in Vernal. So that's where we'll be spending the night. We do have a dinner that night that is scheduled with local elected officials. That'll be at the Swain Brothers Restaurant in Vernal. And so far, we've got Duchesne County Commissioner, Senator Winterton, actually two Duchesne County Commissioners and two Uintah County Commissioners, and the Senator will be joining us for dinner that night. Other than that, we'll start out the next morning on Wednesday. The breakfast is served in the hotels, and we'll gather up and check out before 8 o'clock in the morning to leave for American Gilsonite, which is a mining facility south of Vernal. It'll take us about 45 minutes, maybe an hour to get there. We'll have a lunch and a presentation at American Gilsonite, and then a certain number of people will be able to go underground. It's a limited number, and we have a list that's being put together, and I'll have that finalized the day of, but there will be a certain number of people who will be able to go underground at the mine. Did I indicate that right, Mr. Gillette?
Yep, that's right. What's kind of hard going down, what I'd like to add is that getting underground is a little more problematic than like going to a coal mine or something, because you have to go down in these skips, which are, they're about 3 feet wide, 1.5 feet, 2 feet wide by 3 feet long. So it's kind of like cages going down. So it's just a little more problematic. And actually what I was going to add too is that as I've been interviewing some people for jobs, is that if anybody has a sense of being claustrophobic, you probably don't want to go underground, because it's pretty tight. But it's a real interesting tour. It's mining that you won't see like any place else. So, but other than that,
We're very much looking forward to it, and
Yeah,
some
we're
of us
looking forward
are
to it.
excited to go underground in such a novel mine, I can assure you. Some perhaps not.
So after the tour at American Gilsonite, we'll basically just be packing up and headed back to Salt Lake City. And we should be back here at the DNR building on Wednesday by at least 4:30 p.m. When you get here, you're welcome to park in the back lot. If there aren't close parking spots available, we can take you back to the furthermost north lot, and you can leave your car. It'll be secured overnight inside the facility. So we'll make arrangements for that. Any questions on that? Okay, thank you. Well, as we've done in the last couple of months, we've had updates from each of our programs. I think you heard from coal, oil and gas, the AMR program. So this morning we're going to do a similar program update for the Minerals Regulatory Program. And here with me today is the Minerals Program Manager, Mr. Wayne Western. And at this point, I'm going to turn the time over to Wayne for his presentation.
Thank you, Director Baza, and with your permission, Chairman Borden, I will proceed with the presentation. Can I get the slide on the? Okay. There. Okay. Okay. All right. I want to start out with our board presentation for 2023. It's a very great honor to be able to give this not only to the board but also to the general public, thanks to YouTube. And I just want to go over what our basic mission is. I'm sure you're all aware, but for those in the public, our responsibility is to encourage reclamation and development of resources. We are very much an agency that wants to help the mining industry get critical minerals in production and do so in a responsible manner. We're also here to protect human health, safety, and the environment, and also all the interests of the state and its citizens. Now, within oil and gas and mining, there's the oil and gas side, and then there's the mining side. For oil and gas, basically, if it comes out of the earth as a liquid or a gas and it burns, it's over on the oil and gas people, and they do a very excellent job on regulating that. For the mining side, there are 3 different programs. If one is the abandoned mines, they do a wonderful job in reclaiming mines that were ceased operation prior to 1977. Here we see an example where you have an open shaft, and with all the ATVs, UTVs, and going on, this is a potential, death trap here, and they do an excellent job in protecting the public. For coal mines, due to federal regulation and also various funding sources, it's best that if they have their own program. This is an example of a coal mine down in Alton, Utah. And here is the major mines within Utah that we have. For the mineral program, we cover just about everything else. There are some exceptions. One would be sand and gravel. The other would be boulders, and then basalt mines under 50 acres. In Utah, we have a number of critical minerals. Probably the most famous one would be beryllium. Depending upon the sources, we produce between 65 and 85% of the world's beryllium. Magnesium, we are the only domestic producer. Lithium Utah is one of only 2 states in the nation that is currently producing lithium, albeit a byproduct. The other one is Nevada. And Bingham Canyon produces several critical minerals, including platinum, palladium, and beryllium. The beryllium is out of the Topaz mine. Many people think that the proper name of it is the Spora Mountain because that's been placed on many a map. But I can guarantee you, as somebody that's been inspecting the mine for 15 years, that the true name is the Topaz Mine. U.S. Mag, many of you are familiar with that as you drive past the Great Salt Lake. As I mentioned, it's the U.S.'s only magnesium producer. Magnesium is a very critical mineral for aerospace and defense. And in addition to the magnesium, it is also produces lithium as a byproduct. And right now, everybody has a tremendous interest in lithium, particularly if we're all going to be switching over to electric vehicles in the next 10 years. Other minerals produced in Utah are basically classified as base, precious, industrial, uranium, and unconventional fuels. The base and precious metals in Utah consist of copper, gold, silver, molybdenum, magnesium, iron, beryllium. Of those, copper is king. Here's a picture of Kennecott Copper. I'm sure most of us are aware of the large open pit located within the valley. We also have a number of industrial minerals. These aren't the really, top things that a lot of people think about. It's not like the gold, silver, but they are a valuable commodity. They include a number of things: potash, mag chloride, phosphate, lithium, salt, limestone for cement. I'm sure many people have, if you're either building a home or doing remodeling, you'll know how difficult it is right now to get cement. Gilsonite, we'll find out all about that in a month, and we have industrial sand and gypsum. Potash is a hot topic right now, although Canada is the world's largest producer. If you look at the following, they're China, Russia, and Belarus, not necessarily friendly towards the U.S. all the time. We have things like riprap. A lot of people just say, oh, that's just common rock. Why do we care about that? But with the flooding that has the potential for coming up in the next few months, everybody's scrambling to try to get riprap in order to protect stream banks and homes. Uranium, Utah has a long history with uranium mining. Right now, with the price of uranium, it's simply cheaper to import from overseas than it is from domestic production. But Utah does have several mines that are on standby status. This one is the at.a.m mine down in Garfield County. Oil shale, again, we have a tremendous reserve of that. What's going to happen with oil in the future, time will tell. We also have oil sand deposits out in the Uintah Basin, another thing that we'll be going out with for next month. There are 335 active mines within the Utah. Here's a general location, breaking it down by county, going through with bonds. The division holds 573 bonds. Some of those, there are a few mines that the permits have expired, but we're still holding bond for those. The total amount of bond is over $400 million. And just give you some highlights of what's been happening with the division from 2022 to the present. Probably the two high-profile items would be Tree Farm, Parley's Canyon. I'm sure everybody in the board is familiar with that, along with Point of the Mountain. The public had a great deal of interest in those, and will continue so as mining for industrial minerals, particularly sand, gravel, is continuing near populated areas. We have had a lot of turnover in the last little over a year. We've had 4 new inspectors. Right now, our most senior inspector has 5 years on the job. We've also have 1 new support person. Breaking down what new permits in 2022, we had 18 exploration, 12 small mines, and 1 large mine. Our goals are to process incoming permits and amendments, revisions with an 85% on-time rate. Salesforce is a new database that we have acquired. We want to get that up running, including transferring all the data from our old databases into new databases, which sounds simple until you try and do it. We're also looking at suspensions and closeouts, and also we have a cultural program. For the first time, we have a lead that, Tessie Birmingham, who is an archaeologist by training and is helping us with compliance, which is right now rather fortunate because Seth Button, who was the archaeologist with abandoned mines is leaving the program and going on to bigger and better things. Any questions about the minerals program?
Board, any questions? I've got one quick question. I believe you said there were 355 mining permits right now.
Yes.
How many of those are for mines that are not currently operating, so they're in suspension?
Right now we're going through and trying to classify which mines are in suspension. We probably have about 15 to 20 that are formally in there, and we're going through and working with operators to determine, get better stats on that. So it's something, we're currently working on trying to get that number a little bit better defined.
So it might actually be a bit larger?
It might
Is
be
that-
a bit larger, yes.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Yes.
Yeah, you had one bullet on suspensions and closeouts, and could you give us a bit more detail on it? What's driving the suspensions and closeouts?
What we want to do is just get those mines properly classified, that there are some slightly different regulations with them. In the past, if a mine went into suspension for 5 years or 10 years, then the division could require reclamation. Those rules have since changed. And when the mine now goes into formal suspension, we look at it and have them just fill out different forms. We also go in and make sure that the mine is environmentally safe. It's something for our leads to be aware of, that these mines are not active, and that to be looking for any long-term environmental issues that could occur with those mines. An example would be like the at.a.m mine in Garfield. They have a number of excellent surface facilities there. The price of uranium currently will not support an underground operation, but it doesn't make sense for us to go in there right now and say, tear out your buildings, tear out your mill, tear out everything. And when the price goes up, well, then you can march back in there and build everything. So this would be to help the new inspectors come in, be aware that these mines are not going to be active for a while, and just make sure that they're environmentally safe in the long term.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Yes, Mr. Church.
Mr. Western, what drives your inspection program? Is there a routine, or is it new mines, older mines?
Our goal in an ideal situation would be to inspect every mine every year. Due to various factors, what we're trying to do right now is make sure that all large mines are inspected once a year, and then all small mines are inspected at least every other year. But our main goal is to hit every mine. In an ideal world, we would hit every mine every year. So we have, close to 600 mines within the state. We have 6 inspectors, so that's each inspector is 100 inspections per year in an ideal situation. So I'm telling my people to do the best that they can, but if they can't get to a mine in 1 year, make sure they get to it in the next.
Thank you.
And one other question. Could you briefly describe what the database looks like that you have? I mean, do we have a good inventory of the components of our ores and mines and stuff like that?
What we're switching over with Salesforce is to get it more integrated. The old ones were just slightly, filling in, the basics, where the mine was, a general location, who the operator was, a few things like that. At the time, it served us well with advances in computers, software, hardware. We're now on our database. When you call up a mine, you can call up everything with the history on the mine, from all of the documents, the location, who is the operator, what other agencies are involved with it. So so all the information would be there, on the screen, be able to scroll down, find out what tasks are currently open, which ones need working, need to be addressed. All the contact with all the other agencies in the past. It was something that you'd have to go through the permit to try and figure out who was the contact information, what the sister agencies were. And so it's going to make our work a lot better.
Mr. Walker, if I could jump in for a second, too. It's important to understand that neither of our mining regulatory programs has a responsibility to collect production data, unlike the oil and gas program. And that's been a basis since early days of the statutes. But I know that there is a annual reporting that each operator does in the minerals program that includes some of that data, but it's not routine and regular or required like it is in the oil and gas program. So I know UGS has done a very good job of cataloging information that they get voluntarily from both coal operators and mineral mine operators. So the data is out there, but it's probably like a year or so in arrears.
Okay, so it sounds like the division has a good handle on operational stuff, but the geologic survey would have the actual minerals, the data on what
In
minerals
terms
are
of
out there.
commodity amounts and
Okay.
volumes produced and things like that.
Fair enough, thank you.
I would say that this is probably one of the things Ms. Dean would have mentioned had she been here, but we are planning to do a board briefing and update on the minerals program database, that entire project. It's nearing its fruition at this point. We just needed to make sure we had enough information that we could share with the board to give you a pretty clear understanding of what it's going to do for us.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the board?
I'd just like to say, in addition to what the geologic survey has, Tom Faddis at Sitla put together what he calls a minerals inventory that I believe is still available to the public. That's reports and studies, and Sitla was looking to generate interest in their minerals. So there's a lot of information out there on all sorts of minerals. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity for the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Western. Certainly appreciate all that you're doing, all the staff that is doing in the minerals program. So I appreciate it. Moving on to some other items, things that have happened recently that we need to go over with you that we didn't include when the agenda was prepared. The first one is you may have read some news reports or heard about an uncontrolled well situation down in Grand County in the past month. I would tell you initially that the division's role in a situation like that is to first and foremost ensuring that the operators are doing everything they need to do to protect the public and bring the well back under control. But here is our Deputy Director for Oil and Gas, Bart Kettle, and he's just going to briefly tell you about what transpired. It required our people to coordinate a lot of information and communicate with various parties including the operator and the first responders at the site, to make sure that the public was safe. So Bart, go ahead.
Thank you, Director Baza. So Bart Kettle, Deputy Director with the Oil and Gas Program, and as Director Baza indicated, I'm here to talk about an uncontrolled gas flow that occurred several weeks back, April 7th in Grand County. And it was about 15 miles south of Green River. The division was notified of the incident that afternoon and responded to the scene the same day. We remained engaged until the well was brought under control several days later. And as Director Baza indicated, the role of the division responding to an emergency incident such as this is to serve as a central point of information for the incident command that's established for it, for the community, and also for the operator. And then once an incident has been contained, the division ensures that applicable rules are being complied with and that cleanup operations meet our standards, kind of protecting resource values at the site. If I could, for just a moment, I would like to tell on to what Director Baza talked about. As the board knows, I've been kind of an advocate of our staff. They're very dedicated people, very knowledgeable. It's astounding how much they know. And when something like this occurs, the dedication and the knowledge both showed up. We had staff working hard to be present, to disseminate information over the weekend and assure things kind of smoothly moved along. And it's such a luxury to have people take those roles willingly and do them so well. So the well was brought under control on Monday morning as soon as the specialized crews and equipment could be mobilized onto the site, and remains in that status today. If there's any questions from the board, I'll be happy to answer them.
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Church.
Mr. Kettle, do you know what the original cause of the incident was?
Yeah, no, not at this point. We don't know the cause. The operator's still working on the well to make a determination of what caused the incident.
Thank you.
So forgive me, I've been out of the country for 2.5 weeks. I don't know anything about this incident. Could you just give a thumbnail sketch of what happened? Was there a release contained? I don't, you just kind of tell us what happened.
Yeah, so on April 7th, Friday, April 7th, the afternoon, we were notified that there was an uncontrolled leak at a gas well. Like I said, it continued to flow gas until Monday morning when all the appropriate crews could be established, and they pumped control fluids down the wellbore and contained it. So it wasn't a liquid release, but it was a gas release.
Okay, thank you.
I might mention that the first responders to the site who set up the incident command was the Grand County Sheriff's Office. So they took control of protecting public safety for the most part. Our role was really to coordinate with the operator, making sure that the operator was doing everything they needed to do to bring the well back under control.
I was going to ask about who set up the incident command. Thank you.
Sure.
Yes, Mr. Church.
So I did read that there was an evacuation around the well of the campers and folks like that. Was the well immediately put on flare, or was there a release of gas that had not been on flare?
Yeah, it was a release of gas that had not been on flare, and the well was not immediately adjacent to a county road, but relatively close, and so that county road was closed until the situation could be stabilized, basically for safety reasons.
Do we have any estimate of the total gas release?
I don't have an estimate of that at this point.
Any other questions from the board?
Yeah.
Yes,
So,
Mr. Walker.
so the operator will be conducting a root cause analysis and providing that to you at some point in time, or?
Yeah, the operator is just getting back to working on the well at this point to make those determinations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kettle. Another item we need to bring up with you involves our favorite topic, rulemaking, and Natasha Baloff, our legislative and policy coordinator, is going to brief you on an item that has raised its head in the last few days.
Yes. So I'm Natasha Baliff. I'm the Legislative and Policy Coordinator for the division. In my last couple rulemaking presentations, I've mentioned that we have 5-year renewals coming up. This year, very appropriately, is the minerals program rules that are up for review. In addition to that, we have our administrative rules, and there's 2 of them. We have 4 of the coal rules and 1 from our oil and gas program. My intention is to get them all on the same yearly cycle, so we're hitting every program. That's still a work in progress. But the intention of this is the Office of Administrative Rules just has agencies review their rules every 5 years to make sure they're still applicable and still necessary. Looking at all of these, they're all still necessary to run all of the different aspects that our programs deal with. And so today I'm just asking permission to renew all of these rules. This one is different where we don't have a public comment period process. It's just for agencies to review the rules and make sure they're still applicable. So as long as you guys grant the blessing, I will file forms. Yes.
Board, do we need to discuss this, or can we entertain a motion to?
In keeping with past practice, what we've done is when these 5-year renewals occur, we try to just automatically renew them so that we're not without rules. But if any of them need to be addressed, modified, amended, if we receive comments back from people that, hey, you know, this rule needs to be changed, we do that as a separate process. So this is merely just to keep the rule active so we aren't left without a rule in place.
I would, yes, Ms. Sierra.
What was the process used to review these rules, and was it a committee? Was it, you know, all the staff, or how was it determined that these rules were still necessary?
It's really just ones that all of them touch our daily practices. So all of the mineral rules have different, I should have written down all the different titles, but I know that there's one that deals with small mines and the whole permitting process for that. We have one for large mines. One for inspection enforcement that says that any like field inspectors, they have access to the land. And so we just kind of quickly look over them and make sure that what's there is still necessary.
Maybe to help you with that question, Ms. Sierra, is that every administrative rule has a 5-year sunset on it. It automatically expires unless you renew it. So in this case, we got notifications just in the last few days that these rules were set to expire in about 30 days. So again, as I said, the process has been in the past that we keep the rule in place, but if it needs to be modified and changed, and we know that, then we will do that as a separate rule modification process.
So you're asking for renewal without revision?
Yes.
For these?
Yeah. So this is, you can't revise them all. This is just renewing. I will add that within the form that I have to fill out to renew them, you do have to say why it's necessary and why it's still applicable. And so every single rule has their different, like none of them can be the same answer. All of them have to be individualized. So I do go through that and fill out every form.
Natasha,
Yes.
could you send us a list of the specific rules that are under discussion here, so we at least
Yeah,
have
of
the
course.
titles and can look them up?
Yeah, of course.
Thanks.
So
we would need some feedback from the board in order to get the forms filed and sent in for renewal.
is there concern about renewal without revision of these rules, or can we, are we comfortable approving that today?
Well, I think that really what they're asking is that these rules stay in place until or unless they ask for a change. So I think
Yes.
they're just asking for our approval to say, yes, please continue with these rules, and if there's a change, follow your process.
I'd just like to know specifically which rules we're talking about, by title at least, so I can look at them.
Okay, so should we not, okay, so could we Could I entertain a motion to approve continuing the renewal process?
I'll make that motion to approve the continuing to renew these administrative rules.
I'll second the motion.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Let the record show that was unanimous.
Awesome, thank you. I will. Okay, there should be some coming up, but we'll see. But yeah, I'll send you an email.
Sounds like that's the purpose of it, just to make sure they're still applicable, and so
Yeah.
it'd be fun if you could present one that we want to get rid of.
Yeah, I did actually find one. It was before my time, and it had to do with, it was within the oil and gas rule. It was, I can't remember what the title was, but I know that it was number 4. So R649-4, that one is no longer, it was no longer needed.
job.
So thank you. It wasn't me, but I'll take credit for it. But I'll send that email with a list of all the titles.
Thank you.
I'm sure
Thank you.
you'll be sending that in the next few minutes. Thank you very much. I think that is all we had under other items. I'd just like to go over a calendar with you real quick. We're having our monthly board meeting for April today. Board tour is on May 9th and 10th. And then the open house reception for Mr. Hanson on May 23rd. The May board meeting is on May 24th. And we will be doing a new board member orientation session with Mr. Galecki on June 2nd. It's a Friday. We've invited in the past other board members who maybe want a review of the board process as the division sees it. You're welcome to attend that orientation if you have the time. If you would like to attend, please let me or Julianne know, and we'll make sure that you're indicated as an attendee, and we'll order a lunch for you. But that will occur from roughly 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. on Friday the 2nd. So with that, Mr. Borden, I'll turn the time back over to you and the board, and for whatever matters you want to attend to at this point.
Thank you, Director Baza. Now is the time we traditionally are open for public comment. Is there anyone present or who would like to make public comment today? Yes, sir.
Mr. Borden, as a soon-to-be a member of the public, can I take just a few minutes to express my appreciation for having been allowed to serve on the board for 12 years. It's been an honor. It's not often that you have a job where you can spend a day a month with people who are much smarter than you are, and you can learn from them and their experiences and their knowledge. 12 years is quite a while. It's been great. It's been a great run. Well compensated for it, you know.
We know that.
And it's a day a month that you actually get to spend with attorneys and enjoy it. I mean, that's pretty unusual. But thank you. Director Baza, I appreciate your support and your division. They've been wonderful to work with. It's been a great 12 years.
Well, Chris, it's been great having you on the board, and we're sad to see you go, but I know you're going to make good use of your time. Huh?
Fishing to be done.
Any other public comment? Seeing none, we will adjourn briefly and reconvene at the top of the hour at 10 o'clock.